إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. To proceed, alhamdulillah, we've been talking in the previous khutbah about some of the characteristics of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And inshallah today we'll continue along with that and covering one aspect of his ibadah, his worship with Allah Azza wa Jal, that we should all aspire to. Spending time with Allah. Many of us are preoccupied throughout the day and sometimes throughout the night, especially in modern society. In addition to our schoolwork or our jobs, we have social media and other distractions that are keeping us constantly occupied. So we have to be careful to remember that we need to spend time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the best ways to spend time with Allah is to establish Qiyam al-Layl. Allah Azza wa Jal, He commanded the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, O you who are covered up, or in some tafasir, O you who are sleeping. Qum al-layla illa qalila. Get up and pray the night prayer. Right? A small portion of the night. What is a small portion of the night? Nisfuhu aw inqas minhu qalila. Half of the night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying for the Prophet to pray half of the night or a little bit less. Uzida alayhi wa rattil al-Qur'ana tartila, or a little bit more. So half of the night on average, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. What is half the night? Subhanallah. If you take from Isha until Fajr, divide it in half, then you will see the amount of hours that our beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam was spending in ibadah and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the night. إِنَّا سَنُلْقِي عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا أو أزيد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا, and recite the Quran in a beautiful melodic manner. Recite the Quran beautifully, slowly, with tartil, tadabbur, concentrating upon it. It's not so much that we try to speed through the Quran, but especially at this time of the night, which you're communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're talking to Allah alone with no distractions, and Allah is talking to you through His book, His beautiful book. And the way you recite the book is how you are taking in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words. So the better you recite it, the more beautiful you recite it, the slower and more accurate you recite it, the more benefit you are achieving from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words. إِنَّا سَنُلْقِي عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا. We are going to send upon you a heavy revelation, a heavy weight. This Quran, this book, the revelation of the Prophet ﷺ is very, very heavy. And the more your heart has an understanding, the heavier it becomes upon you. When the Prophet ﷺ used to receive the revelation, sometimes he would break out in sweats, even though it was a freezing day, a cold day, because of the heaviness of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes he would, because of how heavy the words are, reciting only one ayat for the whole Qiyam al-Layl. One ayah. Right? Repeating it over and over, pondering upon its meaning. You know, how many of us will get tired of just watching something more than once or reading a book more than once? Right? But the Quran, a mu'min never gets tired of. And the Prophet ﷺ was taking this ayat to heart. He would spend the night pondering upon Allah's words, crying. Sometimes the Sahaba, there are reports of him crying so much that they thought some bucket of water was poured upon him because his beard was full of tears. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Praying to the point that his feet would be split from standing so long. And Aisha radiallahu anha, she would ask her husband, O Messenger of Allah, why are you praying so long? And Allah has forgiven your previous sins and your future sins. And he said, أَفَلَا أَكُونُ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا? Should I not be a grateful servant? This is the purpose of a mu'min. We should be abd lillah, a servant to Allah. He is our master. He created us to worship Him. And shakirin lillah, thankful to Allah for all the bounties He has given to us. We should take some time from our day to have just some time with Allah. We have time with our family, we have time with our jobs, we have time with distractions, we have time with chasing the dunya. Make some time with Allah who created you, who gave you everything. Sometimes we spend so much time trying to achieve the things that's in the hands of Allah that He can give us, that He's guaranteed to give us. Yet we don't spend that time thanking Him. You work how many hours a week for your job to get a paycheck that Allah has written for you already. But how many hours do you spend with Allah? Qiyam al-Layl is the ma'dab al-salihin, right? It is the banquet of the righteous. And it was the way of the previous prophets before Prophet ﷺ. These ayat are recited to you, Ya ayyuhal muzammil. It was the first command of worship to the Prophet ﷺ, right? After, of course, Tawheed, Iqra, the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ, they didn't have any other commands except Qiyam al-Layl for about 8 to 9 years. There was no Ramadan, there was no 5 daily prayers, but they had to pray Qiyam al-Layl. And then afterwards, the 5 daily prayers became obligatory and they were exempted for praying the Qiyam al-Layl, but the Prophet ﷺ continued to be wajib upon himself. And he continued to pray Qiyam al-Layl until the time he passed away, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He would not give it up. Even when he became sick or he became very old in age and could barely get up, he would pray sitting down. But he would not leave Qiyam al-Layl. Because this is the way of strength for the mu'min. As the scholars say that Qiyam al-Layl yuzid quwwat al-badan. The establishing the night prayer gives you strength in your body. It gives you peace of heart. It gives you clarity of mind. And in some narrations, it gives you a protection from sicknesses. The believers, as Allah describes in the Quran, تتجافى جنوبهم عن المضاجع يدعون ربهم خوفا وطمعا ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. Right? The believers, their bodies are always turning and getting up from the bed, calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and praying to Him and hoping for Him, right? And fearing Him and spending from what Allah has provided. So how did Allah describe the believers? They get up at the night. They don't sit still and lay down the whole night. وَالَّذِينَ يُبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا. How the believers spend their night? In sujood and qiyam. أَقْرَبْ مَا يَكُونُ وَعَبْدُ لِلَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ وَهُوَ سَاجِدًا. That the closest a person is to Allah is when he is in sujood, when you're bowing your head to the Lord that created you. So the mu'mineen, Allah is describing them, يُبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا. They spend the night in sujood and qiyam, reciting the Quran, standing up, ruku', sujood. إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ وَعُيُونٍ آخِذِينَ مَا آتَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ. The believers, they will be in the Jannah. The muttaqeen, the righteous ones, will be in the highest places of Jannah with rivers flowing. آخِذِينَ مَا آتَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ. Taking what Allah has given them from gifts and bounties. What did Allah describe them? Said, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَبْلَ ذَلِكَ مُحْسِنِينَ. They used to be from the righteous. And how are they righteous? كَانُوا قَلِيلًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ مَا يَهْجَعُونَ. They slept very little from the night. Meaning they were establishing the prayer, the Qiyam al-Layl. And then Allah, the Prophet ﷺ, is describing the believer, is saying that أَقْرَبَ يَكُونُ الْرَبُّ مِنَ الْعَبْدِ فِي جَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ الْأَخِيرِ. That the closest to Allah is to His servants is in the last part of the night. Allah also describes أَمَّنْ هُوَ قَانِتٌ آنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ وَسَاجِدًا وَقَائِمًا يحذر الآخرة ويرجو رحمة ربي قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. The believers also, Allah is describing them as that. He's saying, are the ones who stand up in prayer and call upon their Lord and hope for the akhirah, equal to the ones who do not. And are the ones who know equal to the ones who do not know. They are not equal. You can't say the one who sleeps throughout the night and doesn't spend any time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equal to the one who is spending the majority of his night praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, شَرَفُ الْمُؤْمِنِ قِيَامَهُ بِاللَّيْلِ, that the honor of a mu'min is his establishing the night prayer. وَعِزُّهُ اسْتِغْنَاهُ عَنَ النَّاسِ, and his honor is also being self-sufficient and staying away from asking of the people. Qiyam al-Layl is a way to relieve your heart from any ailments, right? Spiritual ailments and physical ailments. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that when a person sleeps, the shaitan comes and ties 3 knots upon them. And then every time he tries to get up, he says, sleep, sleep, you have time. Because the shaitan doesn't want the mu'min to gain that spiritual awakeness. He doesn't want that moment to have that special time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants, as soon as you wake up, check your phones, think about business, think about work, think about school, think about everything, but forget about Allah Azza wa Jal. So he ties these 3 knots. And if you get up, one of the knots is broken. And then if you make wudu, the second knot is broken. And then if you pray 2 rak'ahs, the third knot is broken. And then you will have a sufficient opening of your heart and your mind to have a blessed day. But if you don't get up, then you will feel lazy and you will have like a disturbed day. So the mu'min, he's always striving to benefit and getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah will bless you in return with an active heart, an active body, and an active mind. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, from the ways to earn Allah's love, there's 3 people that He loves, Allah loves them, and He laughs for them, He makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be happy laughing, and He gives them the great tidings of Jannah. And from them He mentioned the one who he leaves his bed and his comfort and his wife to get up in the middle of the night and go and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? If you do this act, and it works both ways obviously, and there's also another narration, may Allah have mercy upon the husband who wakes up his wife, sprinkles some water on her to get up and pray the night prayer, or the woman who wakes up her husband, sprinkles some water on his face to get him up to pray the night prayer together. So these are means to earn the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, there are some narrations that the angels brag about you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for getting up to pray the night prayer, saying that you left the comfort of your bed and the comfort of your sleep and your relaxation to go and pray to Allah. Because this is establishing your iman, this is establishing your yaqeen, this is establishing your ihsan. And ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tarah, fa'in lam takun tarahu fa'innahu yarak. To worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you cannot see Him, then verily know He sees you. And this is what is established in the night prayer. You're doing it only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nobody around. Yes, going to the Jummu'ah and praying in Jummu'ah is a very righteous deed. In fact, if you pray, the night prayer in Jummu'ah and the Fajr in Jummu'ah, it's like as you prayed the whole night. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, praying Isha in Jummu'ah, you get like you prayed half the night. And then praying the Fajr in Jummu'ah, it's like you get half the night. Imagine adding upon that Qiyam al-Layl. How much ajr you're building every day. But the difference is the ikhlas. So sometimes you might be praying with the people. It's easier for you to pray with the people. It's easier to be seen. Inshallah, you make your niyyah solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the night prayer, nobody sees you except Allah. So it's a very sincere ibadah. It's a very special worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And that you can be sure that inshallah it's only for His sake. So you can be coming closer and closer to Him. Many of the salihin, the righteous ones, they cannot go the night without praying Qiyam al-Layl. They look forward the whole day to be left alone so they can pray with the Qiyam al-Layl and be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and leave the dunya behind them. It's as if they're getting closer to Jannah. Like they see Jannah in front of them. And they hope for the fruits of Jannah and to be sitting in Jannah and communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeing their Lord. So the whole day, subhanAllah, it's like they're missing something until they pray Qiyam al-Layl at night. And then they are at peace. This is a conversation between you and Allah. Some people, they look forward to meeting famous people or talking to your friends or talking to your loved ones, But the mu'min, his most favorite conversation is with his Creator, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The thing he looks forward to the most. The Prophet ﷺ, he had certain times that he would always leave it just for Allah. And from them was Qiyam al-Layl. After Fajr prayer until Shuruq, he would always be making adhkar and have a special time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Qiyam al-Layl before Fajr. Right? These are the quiet times, the peaceful times, Nashiyat al-Layl, right? The special times of the night, that your heart is open, your mind is open, your mind is clear and not distracted. So it's so befitting for the mu'min, the believer, to start your night like that, to end your night like that. Before you go to sleep, pray 2 rak'ahs if you can. And then try to wake up so that you can get this beautiful blessings that so many ahadith about it. إذا قام صاحب القرآن فقرأ بالليل والنهار ذكره وإذا لم يقم به نسيه. One of the ways to preserve the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heart, the Prophet says in Sahih Muslim, is that if he mu'min gets up in the night and prays with the Quran, he will remember it. But if he doesn't, he will forget it. So one of the ways to make the Quran thabit in your heart is to pray Qiyam al-Layl. Also, it's one of the ways to all of the abwab al-khair and good deeds. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَلَا أَدِلُّكَ عَلَى أَبْوَابِ الْخَيْرِ. Should I not guide you to the doors of righteousness, the doors of goodness, the doors of barakah and blessings? He said, الصَّوْمُ جُنَّةٌ. Fasting is a shield. وَالصَّدَقَةُ تُطْفِئُ الْخَطِيَّةَ كَمَا يُطْفِئُ الْمَاءُ النَّارِ. And charity will take away the mistakes and the sins as water takes away the fire. وَصَلَاةُ رَجُلِ فِي جَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. And the person standing up in the middle of the night. This is one of the ways that you can open the doors of righteousness, open the doors of goodness, open the doors of blessings to you. Like I said, that Qiyam al-Layl will open your heart and free it from anxiety and depression and the concerns of the dunya. It will also give you health in your body. It will also make you active and take away laziness. How is this? Because Allah, He is the one who gives barakah. That's why, subhanAllah, some people, they sleep more than 8 hours and they still feel tired. They sleep past Fajr and they get up lazy and they stay lazy throughout the day. Why? Because there's no barakah in them. And there's some who sleep very little, maybe a couple of hours. And I'm not saying you have to go that extreme, but some of the scholars I know personally, and I've seen many, I've seen some people, they only sleep 3 or 4 hours and they are so active throughout the day because of barakah. They eat very little, but they have blessings in their food, barakah. So don't depend so much upon the dunya aspect, but look at from the akhirah aspect. And these people, they live very long ages and have very few health problems because they had that special relationship with Allah. If you are sitting with Allah every single night, communicating with Allah, calling upon Allah for your needs, leaving all that worries and concerns behind and just hoping with Allah's mercy, how do you think you're going to be blessed throughout the day? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who establish Qiyam al-Layl and be close to Him. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروا الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa rasulullah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, أفضل الصيام بعد صيام Ramadan, شهر الله المحرم. That the best of fasting after Ramadan is the fasting of Muharram. And he said, أفضل الصلاة بعد الفريضة قيام الليل. And the best of salah after the fara'id, the obligatory prayers, is Qiyam al-Layl. It's the way that you can get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and establish something in your life that nobody really knows except Allah. And that's what a mu'min, he tries to have something, some ibadah, some worship that is solely for the sake of Allah that nobody knows about. Whether it be a secret sadaqah or it be Qiyam al-Layl that you could do every night or sometimes fasting, etc. But we want to start training ourselves with this ibadah that the Prophet ﷺ, he never left. Right? It's a reason that it was the first command for the Muslims, to prepare them for what's going to come afterwards. Imagine 7 to 8 to 9 years, only faridah that they had was doing Qiyam al-Layl. It's to prepare them, right? When you do Qiyam al-Layl, it becomes natural to you. It prepares you for all of the fitna of the dunya. It gives you the comfort to stay away from the haram and to have Allah in your life constantly. And inshallah, we can train ourselves. If you are from the ones who do it, may Allah bless you and increase you. If you are not, start little by little to build it up. So you can start, for example, doing just 2 rak'ahs, maybe before Fajr, right? And then start increasing it little by little. And then increasing the ayat that you recite. There's certain ahadith that say that if you recite 10 ayat, you won't be written with the ghafilin, right? If you get up and pray just 10 ayat, 2 surahs basically, short surahs, lam yuktub min al-ghafilin. You will not be written from the ones who are neglectful, right? Or forgetful. And if you do 100 ayat, you will be written from the faizin, right? You will be written from the successful ones, 100 ayat. Also, it's not too long. And if you read 1,000 ayat, you will be written from the muqantareen, which is the ones who have huge, huge rewards. The Prophet ﷺ, sometimes he would recite Al-Baqarah, Al-Imran, Nisa in Qiyam al-Layl. If he was doing half the layl, sometimes it was maybe 6 hours of Qiyam. Imagine that, salat. And I'm not saying we have to do that, but start training yourself to have at least a portion of the night devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'll start seeing the barakah in your life. You'll start seeing the blessings in your life. So little by little, like I said, some people, they try to go too much, too quickly, and they give it up. Don't do that. Do little by little and build it up, build it up, build it up until it becomes easier for you. It might take some people a year to get used to it. Like one of my sheikhs told me, he had a student, it took him a year to start establishing Qiyam al-Layl. And then he enjoyed it for 20 years. At first it was hard for that year to do it every night. It was a struggle, But then after he got himself used to it, he trained his nafs. It became the delight of his life, that he never left it for the love of it and the pleasure of it. So one, as a mu'min, a believer, inshallah, with the help, also we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our dua, Allahumma anna dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadaka. We ask you, O Allah, to make it, to help us in your remembrance and being thankful to you and to have a proper worship to you, right? So asking Allah to help you in making Qiyam al-Layl is another means to, inshallah, help you establish it in your life, right? Making dua to make it easier. Leaving the sin by the day will make it easier for you to get up by Qiyam al-Layl in the night time, right? If a person is sinful throughout the day, it's more and more difficult to get up for the night prayer. But if you're leaving sins throughout the day, Allah makes it easier for you to get up at the night. And that's with any ibadah, subhanAllah. The more sins one does, you find it harder to do the worship. And the more worship one does, they find it harder to do the sins. So let's be from that second category, those who worship Allah and stay away from the sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the good of this dunya and the akhirah, and to bless us and keep us firm upon His path, and to help our brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Syria, in Yemen, in Sudan, and everywhere around the world. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادك. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه ولا تكفروه. قيموا إلى الصلاة يرحمني ويرحمكم الله.